It's the Late Fun Guys podcast, playoff edition. I'm Samir, and I got my co-host Mark. Habs lost 4-0. They are outplayed by the Maple Leafs yesterday in a third period that looked like they had given up. Mark, what are your thoughts?
It was more than the third period. It was also the second period. First period was 0-0. But I mean, if it wasn't for Carey Price, they would have lost 7-0 this game. The best thing about the series has been Carey Price. And I was positive, Sanjam, in heading into the series. I thought we haven't seen the Habs. We're going to see what we saw the first couple of weeks, the second half of the season. There was injuries. There was a condensed schedule. And then they win game one. No Tavares, no Foligno. I'm like, this team, they have a chance. They're going to win it. They're going to win in 7. They don't show up game 2, game 3, no offense, 4 goals in 3 games. It's just not good enough. And they just didn't show up in the third period. You could tell they didn't have it. They were demoralized. Either they weren't playing for the coach, weren't playing for the GM. They just didn't have it. And if I would have told you after 4 games, Matthews and Marner, 3 points for Matthews, 4 points for Marner, you would take that. And they were even pointless game 4. How bad are the Habs that Alexander Galchenyuk beats you? 3-point game. Thornton, Spezza, the old geezers, and Montreal has tons of them too, for them to stick it. Couldn't make a freaking pass the whole game. I don't know, Samir. Like I never believed you when you said a lack of focus, a lack of preparation, and we knew they didn't have the same talent. And I think we can accept the Habs weren't, the Toronto's a better team. We knew that, but just I don't know if it's their lack of emotion or preparation. And you have to look at the coach. He's part of there on the ice, but Bergevin influences the culture and influences the identity. So I don't know what it is, but I think it's the organization. There's something wrong. Not to show hard like that in the third period. Didn't play at all. Taking shots right at the goaltender. Everything was hitting his crest. It's really disappointing, Sam John. I'm in shock that it fell this way.
So today, Mark, you, along with the entire population of Quebec and anyone else that's a Habs fan, is in complete disappointment. It's almost like a day of mourning after what we saw yesterday on the ice. I think the entire organization has lost hope. I think the management staff has lost hope. The media, the fans, and even the players have lost hope that this is even a winnable series. I think it's come down to maybe saving face in game 5, which is going to be tomorrow night in Toronto. I don't anticipate that the Habs will have a chance to come back from this series. I mean, down 3-1 is given what they've shown us so far in the playoffs as well as in the season. There is no chance for this team. It's unfortunate because I think everyone yesterday had some level of hope that the Habs could probably take it to the Maple Leafs and come out of it with a win, tied the series 2-2, and then we have a best of 3. But it's not the case. Everyone's going to be questioning the entire management, the roster of players, coming up with a list of excuses throughout the year, whether it was the schedule, whether it was the injuries, whether it was the roster itself. And at the end of the day, this team is just not competitive. And if you really think hard and look at the facts, besides the first 10 games, which I said very early on was not something you should hold the Canadiens to that standard or to that bar, because there was no training camp. There were no preseason games. I think teams were still figuring out how to come out of COVID and adapt to the new environment. Habs came out flying, and they gave everybody this false sense of hope that they were going to be competitive and compete for a top spot in the Scotia North, and throughout the season, every single game that they played was more evidence against that. They weren't able to sustain any runs. They were challenged offensively, challenged defensively. Their goaltending was up and down for the earlier part of the season. So, am I surprised, Mark? No. Did I have hope that they could come and turn it around? Yes. Do I expect changes in the offseason? Yes. And I think those changes should have happened a long time ago. But again, I understand the complete disappointment in this team, in this roster. Not having any effect on your special teams is unacceptable in the playoffs. Have not scored a power play goal all playoffs. It's just not what it's going to take to win a Stanley Cup, not what it's going to take to win a couple rounds. And I think everyone just has to come to terms with that this roster and this team is just not going to be competitive until there are some major changes. And I think you're going to have to address that in the offseason.
But when you look at the roster, there's some good pieces. And Bergevin made some good moves. He brought in Toffoli, Edmondson, Allen. They've all
It's definitely not enough. He did commit to $100 million in the offseason, which is a significant amount of spend for a GM. But I mean, nine seasons at the helm, and your roster moves this year just barely sneak you into the playoffs after having a pretty awful season last year and getting super lucky with this bubble playoff berth. And then second of all, like the players that you did bring, and everyone was saying, "Oh, this is a playoff built team." Those guys haven't showed up in the playoffs.
Bergevin said that at the preseason, beginning of the season, got us excited. Make these acquisitions. They had a good performance in the bubble. They're ready to take that next step. But when you look at the roster composition, the issue with this team is the defense. You have 6 stationary, immobile defensemen. They couldn't make a pass. There's no one to bring the puck up the ice for that transition game.
You have a guy with Romanov who's sitting on the bench. Your bright spots in the series were Caulfield and KK, and those guys were sitting on the bench for the first game. I mean, it's just and you know that this roster is not going to compete for a Stanley Cup. You got to give those guys the experience because they're the future. I don't know if Bergevin is so involved in the.
He puts the
Bergevin is so involved in the day-to-day. Then he has to have had some influence. The fact that Ducharme said all our staff picked the same roster means you have a bunch of yes men in that organization. No one wants to say anything, and it's obviously the wrong decisions. You cannot all agree that the starting roster for game 1 was unanimous within the organization. That to me is baloney. And I think that this whole organization, like you said, needs to be completely evaluated because it looks like there's a bunch of yes men and there's just one guy at the top trying to control the whole flow, and he's not doing the best job.
But why does Bergevin take players, defensemen that play just like him? Big stationary defensemen. Like, that's not the modern NHL. And you had Sergachev, which he traded. He would be perfect on this team. Even Victor Mete would have a spot on this lineup right now, and he was let go for free. There's just some poor asset management there, and he just doesn't have that vision. He doesn't have that.
Victor Mete is not going to win you a game or a series. I think Sergachev move looks good right now, but remember, he did get developed in Tampa. He plays with one of the best defensemen in the NHL in Victor Hedman, which could mask a lot of the things that we probably don't see, and we don't watch him on a regular basis. I'm just saying, I agree with you. Like, yes, Marc Bergevin has done some good, but more, I don't think has not brought the team to where it should be after 9 seasons. I don't think he can complete the job. I think he needs to take a step back and let someone who can put these final tweaks, because you're right, there are good pieces on this roster. It's now about figuring the right fit and finding the right complementary pieces to help propel this team to win according to the identity that we thought they have, which is the speed game. So end of the day, it was a game 4. We're down 3-1. I'm totally understanding of everyone and all the disappointment. I'm even disappointed. Let's see what happens in game 5. We still have there's still an outside chance, even though it looks bleak. And I think we're gonna have a lot of time to discuss roster and offseason moves. But end of the day, like I'm not surprised that they lost, and I'm not surprised that this series is looking like it's gonna only go 5 games.
Yeah, and what pisses me off is you have Deneau saying we should be hungry next game to come back to our fans. Anderson said before game 4, we'll play hungry tonight. Like, where's the hunger? Like, like have a steak so you're not hungry and play. It's just
It's all talk. It's all talk. It's been all talk all season. We're gonna come back. It's a must win. We're gonna make the playoffs. Like it's all talk. They have not able to demonstrate that they deserve a playoff spot. They did not demonstrate that they deserve to win a game. I think they got lucky in game 1. I think the Tavares injury really shook the Toronto roster. It could have been over in 4, Mark. So this team does not have what they need, the mental ability or capacity to perform on
Deneau
the
was
ice.
still playing 18 minutes the other game, last game, and KK had like 12 minutes. How does that make any sense? And we know Ducharme is a puppet of Bergevin, clearly. So like during it together, to me, I've supported Bergevin, but fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It's time to let Bergevin go.
Yeah, preaching to the choir. Definitely, definitely Mark the Shark. Maybe he belongs in San Jose.
They have enough problems with Doug Wilson, but I don't know. They're like Molson has to look at himself and see like and don't get me wrong, there is some bright prospects with your organization. There's Gooley, there's some offensive defensemen, but if this GM is going to end up trading them because he doesn't have the vision that they belong on the team when they're a good fit for a modern NHL. Look at all these successful teams like Colorado with Makar and all these teams with good puck moving defensemen, and you got to be able to draft and keep these guys. So they got to put someone that understands what the modern game is like and not have someone who played like that 20 years ago where the game has changed. It's a speed game, and that's the Montreal Canadiens identity. So I mean, I don't know what GMs are out there, but even I've said Patrick Roy, to have him in the organization, to instill that passion, to put some fire into this organization, to make the players proud to be Montreal Canadiens. I think there has to be a philosophical change also.
Well, there's a lot to think about, and we're going to have a lot of time to discuss that in the offseason.
Yeah.
But until then, we still got one more game. And
one more game.
One more game. So don't lose hope, Mark. I know it's a day of mourning, but let's see what happens. I mean, you never know, right? As Mark Bergevin says, you never know. And I think he's hoping that he wins the lottery. He's hoping that he wins the NHL playoff lottery to steal a game or 2 and even take it to 7. So he'll be able to save face.
Certainly. Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll be back after game 5 for more commentary. Go Habs, go.